Now, celebrating all things cool in Jacksonville, a local show with a spotlight on the 904 with hosts Eden Kendall and Mark Payton, featuring amazing stories from every neighborhood with Rance Adams. This is River City Live.
Welcome to River City Live, and it feels so good to be back on somewhat of a normal schedule. I mean, we had the opportunity really to go out into the community and see everything that was happening. We know a lot of people still don't have power, and their lives are just all disshuffled, but for the most part, everybody's taking significant strides to get back to, again, like normal days. You know, kids will start school next week, but it feels good, at least for us, just to be back on our routine and back on River City Live.
I noticed that there are a lot of places that are doing specials for the kids, whether they call it a day camp just to get them out of your hair, or actually keeping your kids for the day as daycare. And on News4JAX, there's a list there of all of those places if you want to take a peek at that, because we still have one more day with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because all the little ones in our neighborhood, like my family just got back, and it's just been like daycare in the neighborhood, because all the parents, you know, they'll kind of sit out there, but it's like 20 kids like, we're out, you know, and just being cooped up in the house for days with just your immediate family, any chance to bond with somebody that isn't, you know, your sibling or significant other, you know, that you just want a little space. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, one of the things we wanted to do is we just wanted to start out and just give a little overview of really, you know, the last couple days of what's been happening here, what's been happening with us, and then throughout the show, we're going to share some moments of really what's going on in the community and ways to get involved and to help out. So we'll start out with just some of the footage that we have when we were actually out on the field. This is me. One of the things we do here, our news organization is like a family. So as soon as we hit anything like this, all hands are on deck. And I'm reporting in the morning right when the hurricane was really at its strongest. And I'm on Hendricks Avenue as it turns into River Place. And as everybody knows, it was one of the biggest surges we've ever had since Hurricane Dora back in 1964. And you could just see the water just really starting to flow. Here, Lem Turner. This is just a small sample of just some of the trees that were down. We were trying to get out there and just try to do some reconnaissance and bring people information of what's happening. And on our ways to locations to shoot, this is the type of stuff we would see, especially when you're doing construction. This was a house on Trout River. And this poor woman, her backyard was basically Trout River, and with the flood, this is what you see here. And it was a really dicey situation, but she opened up our door. She wanted to share her story and, you know, just what was happening. And again, this is, you know, right when everything was starting to calm down a little bit, but the floods were still coming in. So it just gives you an idea of, again, just the elements that, you know, that we were experiencing. And again, my heart just goes out because people are still in these situations and without power.
What time was that?
So this is probably about 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday.
Okay, so it went higher than that.
It definitely did, because the tide came in, yeah. So this is when the storm started. Look at the current back there from Trout River.
Oh my gosh.
We had to park the car probably about a couple 100 yards away to walk through. And, you know, we were just asking people, like, you know, do you need water? Do you need help? What's your plan? And a lot of people are like, we're just staying here. And a lot of them didn't have an option because their cars couldn't get through that.
No.
You know,
exactly. Okay, so.
Oh, and then this is just a light-hearted little video that we have. This is afterwards. Go ahead, let's check this out.
Here's Mark Payton's boots.
All right, so check this out. There's a lining in there, and watch this.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. My socks a little bit. Oh, I gotta do one more. Gotta do one more. So what does that tell you? Obviously, the water is tiling your boot. And you know what's crazy? That is ridiculous. Hurricane fun, man. I feel really bad.
What would top that is if a fish or a snake had like come out or what. I mean, I give you
not
guys,
a snake.
I give you guys mad props for being out there, because I am not a snake person, and being out in that water and all the stuff that could be coming through it. So kudos to you, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, you don't really think about that, but now when you remind me of that, I'm like, yeah.
Well, our whole News4JAX team, including all three of us, were out there. But also there was a lot happening behind the scenes inside the building. And one of the things that we were tasked with was bringing you Facebook Live reports to show you what was going on. And that is our lobby. Now we're walking through the newsroom.
And what time was this, Eden?
Oh my gosh, you know what, honestly.
I would think it's like 3 in the morning.
Maybe.
Monday, so like 3 a.m.
Yes. About 3 a.m. because you see Ashley Harding there and she's getting ready to go on her shift.
Yeah.
So the morning shift is just waking up. She was just getting ready. But everywhere you looked, somebody was asleep. So if you walked into a room and you thought it was empty, if you turn on a light, somebody from under a desk would moan or groan or complain, and then you realized that there was somebody sleeping in there. And everybody was afraid to go into any room because you didn't want to wake anyone up, because probably it was going to be just an hour or so that they got to go to sleep. So, you know, what was amazing was the amount of not just air mattresses. I mean, obviously we had plenty of those, but food. And that is our peanut butter and jelly station. We had a station dedicated just for peanut butter and jelly. And it had, you can't see it there, but all the little packets of the peanut butters and the jellies. But then we also had some hot meals on Sunday, and then on Monday, it was the do not touch till Monday food was brought out. And then these are little blowfish things, I guess, that somebody posted. Was it, who did that? Do we know? It sounds like a Denise thing.
I'm not sure.
But they all have positive messages on them.
And one thing, too, with Facebook Live that was so important is that a lot of people lost their power. So really all they had access to is their mobile devices while it had a battery. So not only were we given a behind-the-scenes look of what it was like, but also important updates for people, because that was the only source of communication, that and maybe a battery-powered radio. So it was important just to stay up on those, and that was, you know, part of the stuff that we just all had to do. And the ranch, you had the opportunity actually to go out in a boat after the flooding to see one of the hardest hit areas.
Yeah, so the aftermath, a lot of people suffered a lot of damage. And so this is Eden and I, this is actually the day before.
This is where the JEA trucks were getting together, right?
So yeah, this is us, you know, just imparting some information about shelter information, talking about the JEA trucks that were going to be out there and all the guys that were coming in. Now this is right there is Whitey's Fish Camp. So yeah, so that's down on Doctors Lake. Clay County took a beating, and it was interesting because on one side of the lake was a lot of, I mean, they all had water damage, but one side was like a lot of water damage. On the other side was a lot of wind damage. And so you can see like a bunch of these docks, the boats that in there. There's a tree right there that's been uprooted. And I don't know if it's gonna pop up, but one house we went by, there's a sailboat, that's the Boy Scout camp that's down there, but there was one house where the two boats that were outside on their docks went through a wrought iron fence and ended up about 10, 15 feet from the back of the house. And so, I mean, just the damage is amazing. And I mean, we didn't even show the images of what happened down at the landing in downtown. But
so not only were we all out and about, but you know, the whole River City Live crew was on the clock. First, we'll look at a picture of Abigail, our associate producer, that 18th hour of work. Hi.
But still with that big smile.
That's delirium.
Mark didn't go out alone. Justin, our executive producer, was with him, and he was up to his knees just like Mark was.
And then here's him napping. So you have not so adventurous here in his little cozy bed under the desk, but that's what we were all doing. And then last but definitely not least, this is a picture of what Ryan, our director, is saying. High-flying Ryan. This dude is a trooper. I don't know how many hurricanes he's covered, but when this happens, news goes on 12 on, 12 off, you know, shifts, right? 12 hours on, 12 hours off. They grab him right away because of his experience. He drove in through the elements, and man, like the amount of hours he worked in a matter of a couple of days, unbelievable. So high-flying Ryan, kudos to you, buddy.
You know, you say 12 on, 12 off, but the majority of people stayed straight through.
Oh, exactly, because you couldn't go,
yeah. Exactly. So anyway, okay, we're certainly not trying to pat ourselves on the back. We got to give it up. Our news department here at News4JAX, if I weren't here, I'd be watching very closely to find out what all of our awesome meteorologists were saying and everybody else that was covering things. One thing